Hello, this is Jacob Barton. Welcome to our podcast. Today we will be discussing the 2016 presidential term, and we are also going to be discussing us looking ahead to the 2020 presidential election. Like I said, my name is Jacob Barton.
I'm Evelyn Arnold.
I'm Jarel White.
I'm Elim Utterback.
We also have two guests here, John O'Neill and Matt Zayas. So, Matt, what did you think of the 2016 presidential election?
I think the one word I could use to describe, phrase is a crap show. Somehow, for all the American people, all the people in America, we ended up with Hillary Rodham Clinton and Donald Trump, the two most disliked politicians in the history of ever. I think we need to look at the fundamentals of our system when we realize how the hell those people got picked. But other than that, I think it was revolutionary in how people look at elections, because people don't want the Reagan-esque politicians anymore that point at you with their thumbs. They want people like Donald Trump who are like straight shooters and like tell it to you how it is and curse and everything. So I think that's how it changed with the 2016 election.
I agree. It was truly a carnival act. We had a presidential candidate who had no experience in the political background, and that sort of contributed to a mockery of our country.
I think that if the people were more prepared to handle these two widely unpopular candidates, they wouldn't have even been put in the situation to be elected. We had some better options beforehand that everyone turned to, even wishing that Obama was back in office immediately after Trump got elected. Tons of memes and social pages were coming out with, God, we wish he was still here.
I agree with Elim. I believe that we should have looked at the more other candidates instead of looking at the most popular ones, and yeah.
I think the Democrats could have won if they ran literally anybody but Hillary Clinton, but that's my opinion.
I agree with the other guests here. I think the Democrats probably would have won if they ran Bernie Sanders, but I think another aspect we need to be looking at it was just how shocking Donald Trump's winning the election was. I mean, nobody was expecting him to win, but around 2 hours, around 9 o'clock, once the results started coming in, we realized how close this election was going to be. This was supposed to be a landslide for Clinton, and Trump just came out of nowhere, and we saw all the polls. They were all wrong about this and how close it really was going to be.
I just like to say, feel the bird, but it was truly a surprise to, the people, the American people, and it was an incredibly sad day for us. 2016.
And this election, this 2016 election, led to a presidency that the likes of which the American people have never really seen before, where every move of the president seemed to be publicized, whether by himself or by people reacting to his decisions. We have also never really seen anyone so active on Twitter as President Trump, and many people either supported or disagreed with what he would tweet out. However, this did give people an interesting look into the president's mind during his 4-year term.
I think that Trump, while he is kind of crass, he's not that much different from other Republican presidents, which come as a shock to many, but Trump is pretty much George Bush with mean tweets. The policies are all the same, but how he goes about them are, quite different. But yeah, George Bush was mean tweets. I think that's accurate representation of Donald Trump with the occasional curveball.
I feel like the ability to access Twitter has certainly contributed to his, not immediacy, but questionable usage of it, I saw something a while ago, and it was Trump's 2020 campaign announcement, and it used the music for The Dark Knight Rises in it, and I thought that was incredibly humorous, but it's also incredibly creative, and also just I don't way to kind of express himself, I think, you know, and even no matter, like you said, no matter how crass he is on it, you know, it's a way to kind of, you know, kind of connect with him in a way that, I mean, the citizenry can connect with him without really, you know, looking at a television screen or, you know, doing that. So, you know, that's kind of how I see things. His usage of Twitter, you know.
I think his name also had so much shock value before he was elected that he was already well known even though he hadn't had any political background. And that has contributed a lot to how he's perceived by, you know, a lot of the Midwest and more of the rural places were attracted to his wild views on getting things done.
I don't really think Trump is just George Bush with mean tweets. Which George Bush were you talking about?
Junior.
The second George Bush. I think he's a lot more populist than George Bush was. He's going after big tech and big corporations. You know, he's starting trade wars. He's ruining international agreements. You know, a lot of this anti-neoliberal policies that we saw from the George Bushes and the Clintons, he's really undoing all these policies.
I have to agree with John on that one. He's incredibly outlandish, and you know, seeing as his policies are definitely a lot, you know, more diverse. But he kind of offered the American people an alternative. They weren't happy with the way that things were being run, and Trump kind of condemned those, you know, the policies that were in place that were initiated by other candidates, not only on the Democratic but the Republican side. He was, in a sense, his own, you know, party. See it that way.
I mean, Trump, his rhetoric and policies are different. Like, during the campaign, he was talking about how we shouldn't be in Afghanistan, we shouldn't be in Syria, but even though he's talked about it on Twitter, like, pulling out, he still hasn't. Like, we've escalated in Syria and Afghanistan, and, like, we're being more standoffish with Iran. Most of his, like, policies that have been, like, what's it called, unlike previous presidents, is, like, he has this sort of, like, anti-Obama-ism with him. Like, I feel like that's why he pulled out of the Iran deal, because right now he's pursuing an Iran-esque deal with North Korea with with the same provisions essentially, but he's just pulling out of the one with Iran because Obama bad. Like, that's pretty much the philosophy there.
Okay, so now I'm going to go around the table. If everyone can describe this last presidential term in one word, what would it be?
It was a disaster.
Chaotic.
Messy.
Unexpected.
Unconventional.
Not having a good time, man.
So, what about the 2020 presidential election do you want to see done differently, or what kind of policies do you want to see implemented with the next presidency?
Man, my girl Tulsi Gabbard running on the Democratic side, like, I'm a libertarian, but I would vote for her. Like, what's it called? She's actually principled on, like, being anti-war and stuff, and she can actually get that done. You know, and stuff. So I support her. And again, with another interesting candidate is Andrew Yang, being very interesting, supporting universal basic income, which is a very interesting idea. It sounds like communism, but they actually implemented it in Alaska, of all places. Very conservative state. I don't support the policies of all these people, but I would like to see them go up against Trump so that they can bring him towards them.
I think that Yang is focused on the future implications. Yang. But I think that Yang is focused primarily on the future implications of our country. He kind of like, you know, he kind of looks at the people more so than the actual policy. You know, the legalization of marijuana, you know, universal basic income, you know, universal healthcare. You know, those are all initiatives that he kind of put in place to. Those are all policies that he's kind of, you know, that he has sort of synthesized to kind of garner, you know, attention, and that's interesting. You know, so yeah.
Does anyone else have any opinions that they would like to offer up?
I'd just like to say Yang Gang 2020.
Heck yeah, brother.
Well, thank you for your time today. This has been our podcast.
What about Hainsey Uncle Joe?
We can cut that out.
Thank you, everyone.